Hello and welcome to Filmlix, a podcast where we talk about the themes of art and spirituality as it relates to what we see in the world. Enjoy. All right. So,
Anyone else feel clammy in here?
I do.
A little bit, yes.
dude, it's so
Yes.
hot in here.
It's hot, but my hands are like kind of cold.
Yeah.
Where were you before?
Our room.
It was
The house.
freezing in there.
Yeah, we
I was
keep
wearing
it
a
at, like
sweater.
solid 68.
Nice.
Yeah.
I swear it's colder than 68 though.
Dude, our AC was broken for like 3 weeks this quarter.
This quarter?
Yeah. And we just got it
Damn.
fixed like last week. It's so nice.
Try.
Oh my gosh.
Try.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's almost 30 weeks,
Oh,
actually.
no.
How did you know that?
It's almost 30
You
weeks.
counted that so quick.
Off the rip.
I did a mental estimation in my head.
It makes it look easy.
We're all going to be working for Joe one day.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I didn't even know like really how to go about choosing 5 films that everyone should watch. So it'll be interesting to hear why all of y'all picked the ones you did. I had like a very stringy like rubric that I was basing off of. I felt like I couldn't really have multiple films in the same genre necessarily, but so that's kind of like how I approached this. So we'll see. I think we'll go from like number 5 to number 1. Yeah, and we'll just kind of like go around, and then you can talk about why you chose this one. So yeah, who wants to go first?
I need some time.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking about it.
full
If it's going to be 5 movies that people need to watch or that people should watch, you should probably pick some movies that the normal person wouldn't watch, you know?
I don't know necessarily. Like, just assume that.
Tom was flaming me when I was going over my 5. He was like, "Those aren't the best movies ever," and I was like, "That's
Yeah, but those are movies that most people have seen.
exactly." It's the top
How
5.
about we
Yeah,
make a
but
rule? Okay,
it has
so
to be, it has to be
assume
movies that people usually wouldn't watch.
Not necessarily.
assume that somebody has never seen a movie before. They've never seen movies before,
Yeah.
or they've never seen movies before. They're on their deathbed. They have a week to live.
Over the
and they can
Hedge.
watch 5 movies.
Over the Hedge is one.
Okay, so my first movie. I suppose.
Crazy rabbit
Wait,
squirrel.
This is your number 5, right?
Yeah, this is number 5. Is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Woo!
There were a lot of like making this list is actually way harder than I thought it would be.
Oh.
I thought I would just like pick my 5 favorite movies and be like, my opinion is correct. But I really, 2001: A Space Odyssey is a great movie. It's not my favorite movie. It might not even be my favorite Kubrick film, but like as a film and as an experience, it has like so many levels to it. You can watch it from a filmmaking perspective. You can watch it just as like a person. You can watch it as like a storyteller, and like every different angle, there's so much to it. It's like it deserves its position as one of the greatest films ever made, and it also is likely Kubrick's test on how to fake the moon landings. So
Ooh.
I mean, dude, that movie, it came out in like 1964. Joe, is that right?
68.
68. So, it's older than Star Wars, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh my gosh, dude, that movie is crazy for when it came out.
I haven't
Like-
seen that movie actually.
I haven't
It's
seen
It's
either.
very good. It's weird
Surprisingly.
though. They're like even the opening scene is very, very Kubrick-esque, but it's crazy good.
Yeah, what I'll say about it is that I also think it's very much a need to see movie, but also when I saw it for the first time, it was my introduction to Kubrick films and some more thought-provoking movies, more abstract movies. It's not a normal sci-fi
Yeah,
movie.
not at all.
There is space adventure in it, and some crazy things that happen, especially with the character HAL 9000, which I have as my Google profile image. So I don't know if that tells you what I think about this movie, but yeah, this movie is definitely worth watching. For some reason, I've seen it a few times already. For some reason, the more abstract scenes are kind of what stand out to me more now. If that is kind
Yeah.
of surprising, but any scene with the HAL 9000, which is a very advanced robotic AI character in the second half of the movie, are all those scenes are phenomenal in my opinion. And if you feel like you haven't seen or heard of the HAL 9000, just look up an image. There are countless of future references / homages to that red eye that just shows how influential the movie is. It's a very great movie. It's also not It's also not my favorite Kubrick film, but it is definitely worth watching.
That's a good one.
All right.
You haven't seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's really interesting to like. It feels a little bit like visual poetry more than like a movie at
Interesting.
points. You get these extremely long sequences where it's just ships flying places, but it somehow, in a lot of movies, that would come across as like you're like overplaying it, or you're a little self-obsessed, or you think it's something it's not. But when you watch that film, it just sort of transfixes you, and you kind of can't turn away from it. I think part of it is also like the time the movie came out and the way it looks is like it doesn't seem like it should be able to look that way. Especially like Star Wars looks amazing, and it looked amazing when it came out, and it looks amazing now. And a lot of the same techniques they used in 2001, they used in the original Star Wars trilogy, with a lot of miniatures and stuff like that. But comparing the two, it's night and day in terms of like the quality of the effects. It's really is insane. And then, there's sequences like the Dawn of Man sequence at the beginning of the film that Tom mentioned is like, I remember I was watching it with my little brother, and he didn't realize they weren't real monkeys until the end. He was like, wait, because it's just so well done.
Yeah, any movie with like super good practical special effects.
Yeah.
Like so much respect for the directors and creators of those movies. Like practical special effects might not look as like realistic as like a really, really well done CGI.
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But you can kind of tell like a quality of the filmmakers when they use practical special effects over CGI and stuff.
Yeah.
At least in my mind, when they use, like when a director uses like a practical cosmetics or anything like that,
Mad Max Fury Road.
yeah,
Lord of the Rings.
Fury Road, Lord of the Rings. What's his name? The dude that made. He's a Spanish director. He did Pan's Labyrinth. Yeah, Guillermo del Toro. All of his movies, like very practical. At least his older ones were. But yeah, I mean, 2001's like a great example of all that.
I would say that even with like the conversation of like CGI versus practical, is that practical, a lot of the times they're meant, especially more modern practical effects, are meant to look sort of campy, like some like 80s movie that like made for TV movie. There's like this nostalgia to it. But when CGI is at its best, like look at like the Planet of the Apes movies, where I'm pretty sure the Academy thought they didn't give it best CGI or best special effects or whatever it was, because they legit, the old people in the Academy legit thought that it was real monkeys that were doing all of they just trained monkeys to, run around with AKs. But the CGI in that movie is excellent.
Like explosions.
Yeah. The CGI is amazing, right? In that movie, it's some of the best you'll ever see. But when you're watching it, you're still, at least I am, still very aware that I'm watching CGI. Whereas I've seen practical special effects that have convinced me that it was totally, that either it had to be the best CGI I'd ever seen or it was real. Inception is a movie that does that really well.
Yeah, Nolan loves the practical stuff.
He's really good at it.
Yeah.
All right, we can move on.
All right, Joe, what's your number 5?
Before I get to my number 5, I just want to point out another little trivia tidbit. Donnie mentioned the Planet of the Apes movies. Fun fact, the first Planet of the Apes movie came out the same year as 2001, A Space Odyssey, 1968.
Okay.
So for the way that I thought about my top 5 movies that people need to see is that I wanted to, kind of like what Tom was saying about, I wanted it to be 5 movies that most people probably haven't seen, with maybe one exception. We'll get to that later. But these are movies that mean a lot to me, that I also would like other people to see because I think they have powerful messages or are emotional on different levels. And I also wanted a variety of genres. So I'm not going to... I picked 5 movies that I think would reflect best different genres. The first one that I picked is a movie from 2013 called Short Term 12. This is a movie that completely missed my radar when it came out in 2013. It wasn't until several years later that I learned about what it was about. This movie is about a group of teenagers that live in very challenging family situations. So they live at a home for disadvantaged youths, and it centers around the adult staff that try to give them emotional support so that they're ready for life when they turn 18 and they have to fend off for themselves. But they have a lot of trouble doing that because their family isn't the most ideal place for them. And it stars Brie Larson as the main... I know I have to say this, so I'm sorry. I know some people don't like Brie Larson, but that's okay. I need to say it because she's the main actress. But I do think she is really great in this. This was before Captain Marvel, so you don't have to worry about anything about all that connections. But anyway, this movie is so powerful. It has some deep empathy for all of its characters, all the teens that are dealing with all of their problems, and the performances are very nuanced. I think there are also some very, very intense scenes where these minor characters, they are all trying to deal with all of their mental strain and mental stress, and it hurts to see them deal with these types of problems, but it's also very emotionally cleansing for me to see a movie like this that wants to try to offer a lens for people to observe the story and to understand their situations. And the ending breaks me also. There's more than one scene that breaks me in this movie, but the ending is a very pro-life ending that I feel really encapsulates the whole message that the movie is trying to convey. And I think that, and I'm very glad that a movie like this exists, especially in our modern day. If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It is very intense. It is very emotional, but I think it's worth it.
All right.
Definitely gonna have to watch it.
Yeah, seriously.
I've never heard of that movie.
Yeah, neither have
I
I.
have because Rami, what's his name? Rami Malek. Yeah, he's in that. It's intrigued me before, but not too much.
About the Brie Larson thing, she's also in 21 Jump Street, and he hit on that movie, right? But
Is that your top 5?
That's number 1.
I might have to replace another movie. I think a lot of the actresses and actors from her generation that people like really hate nowadays have suffered from a style of writing that exists nowadays. This like sort of postmodernist try not to get political, but like sort of postmodernist neo-feminist type of writing that you see in films like Captain Marvel, although very watered down in that movie and simplified to an extreme degree. But I think actors like Brie Larson are not necessarily bad actors, but she's honestly, for what Captain Marvel is supposed to be, she's doing a great job. She's supposed to be the worst person ever because that's the way they wrote her. They don't realize they're writing her that way, but they are. And so I try to separate the actors because these actors, a lot of them have been in like excellent films, and I've had that where I've been turned off of a film because I saw an actor from another one. I just like I could not stand them in, and then eventually I end up watching it, and it's like I realize that a lot of the times the actor, it's not their fault, it's just a bad director or a bad writer.
Yeah, I am that way with Jennifer Lawrence and Leo DiCaprio. I just don't want to watch anything with either of them.
You don't like
What
Leonardo?
caused that for Leonardo?
Yeah, seriously.
It's just his face, you know.
Dude, I hear that from so many people. My brother's the
He just
exact same
looks
way.
stuck up and
Yes,
like
man. He's a
cocky and
phenom,
stuff.
bro.
Have you seen
you
you
need
seen
to
Once Upon a
watch
Time in
it,
Hollywood?
yes.
That's what I was
You
gonna
need
say.
to
That
watch it,
film like pulled a lot of weight for him. It helped him
did
a
you watch
lot
it?
in my mind. Yeah, I've seen
Okay,
it.
yeah, my mom, that was the first Tarantino movie she watched, and she hates DiCaprio. Like, she just does not, she cannot stand him. And that movie, she was like, okay.
Yeah, no,
DiCaprio
it saved him
is
quite a
special.
bit for me.
Dude,
Like,
never seen Titanic?
yeah, I have.
I mean, Titanic,
It's amazing.
Titanic's not like,
It's a classic.
it's a classic, but it's not going to be, DiCaprio.
Hey, but realistically, they could have both fit on the door though.
No, 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that's what the door was like. It's like a ballroom door. It's huge.
Okay, what's your number
Another great,
five?
real quickly, another great Leonardo DiCaprio performance. What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Yes, Eating Gilbert
Yeah.
Grape.
Have you seen that
19
one?
19 years.
No, I've never heard of
He
that.
was 19 years of age when he made this movie, and he received his first Oscar nomination. And I think he arguably should have won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He plays in. Is he autistic? In the movie?
Mhm.
Yeah. Is it not? It's pretty.
He also, there's another. He has some great
Yeah.
younger
What's the one where
performances.
he's,
Shutter Island. He's not younger, but that's a great.
Dude, that
Shutter
one.
Island, The Aviator.
That movie just
go
made
back
me
to like
mad.
Basketball
Catch Me If You
Diaries.
Can.
Even.
Oh, that's the one I was talking about.
Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You
That's a
Can
good
is
one.
excellent.
Yeah.
I was talking to my little brother about choices for this list.
I'm not
and
saying
Catch Me
he's
If
not
You
a
Can
good
was
actor. I'm saying I just don't like him.
Yeah,
Okay.
I get that.
Yeah. All right. What's your number five?
Well, I had two in mind, but Tom would give me tons of crap for the one I wanted to choose, which would have been Dead Poet Society.
Interesting.
Oh no, that's a valid choice.
So is that your five?
Nah, I'm gonna go with Treasure Planet, 2002, animated film.
Nice.
Good choice.
Love that
it's a
film.
slept on animated.
Yeah,
movie
it's a
in my
definitely.
It really is.
Yeah, it's like kind of a back pocket movie, honestly. But the reason why I chose it is because on the way home from work today, for some reason I got this like random thought of when I first, because I was thinking about this, like what should I choose? And I like thought about like what I used to watch when I was a kid and like go to Blockbuster and like rent a movie, and it was Treasure Planet would be one of them. And then like now like kids wouldn't have like the nostalgic effect of like renting like a physical disc copy. Now it's all like digital and stuff like that, and just kind of lame. And like I feel like no one really watches that anymore. Like I started playing like there's a theme song that I've been like playing all the time when me and Donny are in the car. It's called "I'm Still Here." It's on Spotify. Really good song. But it's just like that. The movie is just amazing. The soundtrack's also amazing. So I think that'd be.
So
movie
few
has a
people.
super interesting story
That,
behind
yeah.
it.
that movie captures like a lot of childhood for like our generation.
Dude.
Yeah, exactly.
I
That's what I
think,
was. That's
yeah.
another reason I chose it too.
That one and Atlantis.
Oh, okay.
Bro,
I was not a huge Atlantis fan.
I
I
loved
meet very few
Atlantis.
people who've seen that movie.
I love both of
Yes.
those films.
I like. I'll bring it up in conversation, and like no one's seen it. But you people are different. Y'all are different because
Have you guys seen The Road to El Dorado?
Yeah.
That's a
That's pretty
classic.
good.
That
Both.
one's good.
Both.
But for Treasure Planet, it's I don't remember all the specific. Joe might be able to correct me on a couple things here, but the people who made The Little Mermaid, they got a deal to make some movies. They wanted to make Treasure Planet. That was their passion project, and they were trying to push that. And they said, okay, make The Little Mermaid and a couple other. I think it was Hunchback of Notre Dame and one other. I can't remember. The Disney Renaissance. They're responsible for that whole turnover of the Disney company. And then they eventually got to the point, but they kept on getting put down, not able to make Treasure Planet. And then once they finally got the opportunity to. Disney sort of, from the way I understand it, like actively tried to make the movie fail. So it's a good thing that so many people have like such fond memories of it. At least the people who saw it.
Well, that's kind of the story with Pixar, isn't it? Pixar wanted to like do one thing, and Disney, or the people that started Pixar, were working for Disney, and they wanted to do one thing, and Disney wasn't having it, so they left and made Pixar, and then started making a killing, and then obviously Disney bought them. So, all right.
Yeah, it's a fun movie, Treasure Planet. I haven't seen it in a long time. I think the last time I saw it was in 2015, but I remember enjoying it. I do remember seeing Atlantis, The Lost Empire more, but they're both from the same era. I do recommend them both. And Road to El Dorado, not quite Disney, but still very fun movie.
All right, my fifth. It's hard. I don't know if I have like a really in particular order for all of these, but I mean, if we're talking about like deathbed movies, right? I would have to put Rocky on there.
Fire.
The original Rocky, man. And the reason for that, it's just like it's a classic movie. It's a classic movie, and when you actually go back and watch it, I mean, at least me, like my vision on the movie has kind of like been faded just because of how popular it is and all the movies to come after it. But that movie alone is very well done, like really, really well done. Like the acting, like I think that's probably Stallone's best movie,
For sure.
acting wise.
For sure. Yeah.
Either that or like Rocky 2 in my mind. But like that movie's so good. Like the morals and everything. You have like Catholic morals sprinkled throughout the movie. I mean, like him and Adrian, like their relationship is like so. I don't know what you would say. It's like so real. And like I don't know. Like you just want to support Rocky throughout the entire movie. He's such a good guy. Yeah, man, that movie's awesome. It's so good. And it came out in like 73 or something. 76, yeah. So another old movie that's still just amazing. Like, yeah. I don't know if it's my top 5 movies of all time, but like I think you have to watch Rocky. Like everyone has to watch it. It's so good.
Yeah, my brother is huge Rocky fan, and all his kids are huge Rocky fans because of that. And now they're just started like boxing training. So that'll be interesting. They're already like wild creatures.
Out of all the, I don't even know what you would call it, but like the genre that Rocky is, and like Karate Kid, like all the movies where they like get really good at like martial arts or fighting, or there's like a big like training.
Movies?
Yeah, underdog movies.
Yeah.
Like Rocky would have to be, at least in my mind, the number one.
What's wild about that movie I didn't know is that Sylvester Stallone wrote it.
He wrote it, and directed it.
and
He wrote it in like 3 days.
The first he didn't direct, he just wrote it.
Oh, he did. Okay.
But
He directed sequels, but not the first.
Okay.
the fact that he wrote that, like, maybe this is just like I'm like stereotyping him, but I always thought of him as like muscle man, like you know, the
He's a
guy.
writer, dude.
Yeah, the character interactions in that film, and like a lot of what he does between Adrian and Rocky is like, it's so excellent. It's really well done. Like it, and not necessarily like going out of its way to try to different like weird things. It's just doing what it does super, super well. Like almost no holes.
I think it probably has a lot to do with the fact that he's also an actor, and if you've taken any acting classes, you know, like you learn so much about yourself and the human condition, and like so like, and Quentin Tarantino is the same, where he took acting classes in college, and that helped influence his writing, especially his dialogue and like the character interactions in his films. So that's probably why like those are so accurate and raw and like true, because like he has an understanding of like humanity that other writers, no writers today have. But yeah,
It's like knowing the, like Rocky wrote Rocky, like the role Rocky for him. Like no one else was gonna like play that role other than him.
Yeah.
And Tarantino does the same thing. He writes specific roles for specific actors because he knows them. So it just makes it, like, especially Tarantino, his dialogue is just crazy just because of that.
Yeah.
Awesome ending for Rocky too. Well, it's a bittersweet ending, but
Yeah.
powerful for his character. And it's a movie that grows on me. When I was a kid, I watched it. I'm like, I don't get it, or this wasn't what I was expecting. But I grow older, and then that ending hits more emotionally for me. Quick question: what are your thoughts on performance-wise Stallone in Creed
In Creed, the first Creed,
or the second one?
so I watched the first two, and then I didn't watch the third one, or I haven't watched it yet. Creed 1, I thought it was pretty good. I liked, like, Stallone was the only reason I watched the Creed movies, to be honest, just because I love Rocky so much. I thought it was pretty good. I think I would, like, realistically, I think that Rocky wouldn't be in the situation that he was in the Creed movies. Like, he's kind of just like a backstreet trainer. I think that he would be a little bit more, like, on his feet, realistically. But I mean, I thought his performance was good. I actually really enjoyed the first Creed movie a lot. I thought it was good.
I hate that film.
The first one?
I hate it so much.
Do you like the second one at all?
I couldn't finish the second one.
Yeah, the second one I wasn't a huge fan, and the third one I just haven't given it a chance
They
yet.
feel
but
like
I
soap
thought that-
operas. They don't feel like Rocky movies.
It definitely wasn't like an original storyline, which I think the original Rocky is a very original storyline.
well, it's
Just
so
with
like
the ending and
archetypical.
everything.
Yeah,
it was
it's like-
it was so good. Like, he doesn't win at the end. It's like, okay, like, it. I wouldn't predict that if I had just sat down to watch it for the first time.
Because you think you're watching David and Goliath.
yeah, exactly.
You think he's gonna get him, and then
but Creed,
the
at
realization.
least
at the end.
Creed 1 ends the exact same way that you could think of it ending.
Yeah,
But I think Southpaw is better than Creed 1. So
I do like Southpaw. Yeah,
Southpaw's good.
All right. My number 5, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Nice.
That's a good one.
I second that. That's a good one.
Yep. The famous duel.
That is the peak of spaghetti westerns.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
my
gosh.
favorite spaghetti western, favorite western really.
Yeah.
I just love, like, the element of, like, treasure hunt that they have
Mhm.
going throughout the whole thing. I think the way the three main characters interact with each other and everyone else is done so well, and they're like very much individuals. Like, a lot, maybe not a lot, but, like, I think something that especially younger writers struggle with is differentiating their characters. Like, each character needs to have their own voice. And I think it does it so well. And then it's just fun, dude. Like, it's such a good cowboy film.
What I've-
And I love Clint Eastwood.
yeah. What I've heard a lot is people, like, complain about the length of that movie.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like 3.5 hours or something.
Oh, it's not that long. It's not that long. It's almost 3 hours.
Almost
Let's,
3 hours.
let's not exaggerate.
A lot of people like hate on the length of that movie. I don't think that movie would work with any other.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was perfectly fine. Like, I have sat down to that movie.
And I
numerous
mean, like,
times.
it was made, I don't know when it was made, but
Nin-
like
1966-ish.
nothing was that long back then. So, like, but now everything is like 2 hours minimum.
Nothing super as far as like popular films back then were not that.
Yeah,
generally
exactly.
That long.
Yeah.
But you get, I mean, me and Big Joe were talking about this earlier today. Is like there are some films from back then where we were like, how did they make that?
Yeah.
Like how we were watching The Human Condition. It's considered like one of the greatest films ever made. We've watched the first half of the first one. There's 3 of them, and it's from a production standpoint like extremely ambitious, but they're like just knowing how hard it is to make a movie now with like digital cameras and like LEDs and all these things that make your life so much easier. How did they do that on like on film stock with these massive cameras, like lugging them around everywhere?
Yeah.
It's like the most ridiculous thing ever.
And that's kind of like why the films I have, or an element of why the films I chose are on the list, is like I think will stand the test of time, or have so far stood the test of time. So yeah.
Well, another reason that's a good choice, and kind of the reason I chose 2001, is if you've seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, you've seen almost every Western since then. Like yes, you could choose something, you could choose something later on in the lineage of Western films, right? But if you're showing somebody on their deathbed, you want to show them a Western. It's like, why would I show them the movie that did, like, why would I show them a movie that's trying to do what The Good, the Bad, the Ugly did, when I could just show them The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Yeah. And it's like, you have these films that just, like, they were the start of it. That last showdown in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is so many people have tried it, and I don't think anybody's really reached that scene yet, but it's so good.
Yeah, it's also a very awesome musical score by Ennio Morricone, one of the best movie composers, in my opinion. Very, very tense last 30 minutes of the movie. It is long, but it's well paced. That's what's important. If a movie is long and boring, then that's where I have a problem with a movie being long. If a movie is long, but it's interesting or well crafted, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, give me more, give me more. I watched this for the first time last year, and I'm glad I did. It's yeah, it's an awesome movie.
The build up to the duel is so good. Like, the score is so good. Just love it.
But one of my favorite parts of the movie is like they just get wrapped up within like the Civil War. Like the Confederates like take them in their they take them hostage.
Yeah, there's
when I was watching, I was like, what? Like,
there's so many different
so
elements.
crazy, but it fits.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's so many different there's so many different sections to the movie. Like, you kind of overlook that. Like, when you see a Western, you're like, oh, I wouldn't think that it would be Civil War involved.
Yeah.
That was pretty sick.
All right, Donnie, number 4.
Okay. So I talked about this film the last time I was on this podcast.
Oh boy.
It's from my favorite director as of right now, although it changes like weekly. There Will Be Blood. It was also the film that made me want to make movies. It was like the reason. It's starring Daniel Day-Lewis, so you already know the acting is A1. It's directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, who I think is probably the greatest. Well, in my opinion, he's the greatest indie director of all time, and maybe the greatest working director right now. Although he has stiff competition, obviously. Scorsese's still working. Tarantino's got one more film, and Denis Villeneuve. There's plenty of Nolan. There's plenty of great directors out there, but in my opinion, Paul Thomas Anderson, like, as far as consistency in his films, like, he is. I don't think he's made a bad movie. Not that Nolan or Tarantino have, but he's just so good. Every movie is something unique and different.
Mm-hmm.
There Will Be Blood is like subtle but bombastic at the same time. You get these insane, like, this. There's these shots of the movie is about a guy who he's trying to find gold in the beginning, and then he ends up finding oil, and he realizes the potential of this resource, and so he becomes a businessman, and he goes around buying up land and harvesting the oil. And there's a shot in that film where there's an explosion, and the oil is all lighting on fire, and it's going up in the air, and you see Daniel Day-Lewis covered in this black goo, like, looking up at this flame.
That is literally the only frame of that film that I've seen.
It's so good, dude. It's just so good.
Yeah. It's like extravagant, if you would have to describe it in my mind. I don't think it's the best Paul Thomas Anderson movie, though.
It feels like a novel when you're watching it. I don't know. It's so weird.
I mean, I feel like it feels more like abandoning your child in some senses.
There's some iconic lines, some iconic frames, some stellar acting. The ending is amazing.
The ending is wide.
It's also it's also eerie at the same time.
It is, but Paul Thomas and all of his movies are like that. Like, he has a very specific vibe to his movies, and like, I love it when directors have their own style, but his style it's weird because it's like it's there, but you can't see it.
It morphs. So you have things like Boogie Nights, which are like just so like so much personality, and then you have something like a Phantom Thread, which is like almost all static shots.
Yeah.
The acting is very understated. It's all about the tone and the the subtle movements. And then you look back at Boogie Nights, and
Yeah, but in some
it's
way,
crazy.
Phantom Thread and Hard 8 have the same vibe.
True.
Like,
yeah,
they have
he
the
has
Paul
this.
Thomas
There's a
Anderson.
through
It's like
line. Yeah.
They're totally polar opposites, but they
Mhm.
do. It's crazy. But I
Such a
think
good movie. I put it on the list because it's one of my personal favorites, but also I think it has a lot to say. Not that I agree with everything it says, but it has a lot to say about the human condition. We'll leave it at that because it's like, if I start talking about the movie, I'm not going to stop.
I love Daniel Day-Lewis's voice inflections and vocal control in that movie. It's one of my favorite performances that I've ever seen. It is a great movie. Of the Paul Thomas Anderson movies that I've seen, it is my favorite one. Yes.
All right.
What's your favorite, Tom?
My favorite's The Master.
I haven't seen it yet.
Dude, that movie's terrible.
It's so good, dude. I love
It's
that
terrible.
movie. It's so good.
That one's boring.
It takes what There Will Be Blood with more excitement in my mind. I'd say there's more. There's
There's no pace to that movie, dude.
The pace is amazing.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
All right,
It
Joe,
keeps
what's
you
your number
guessing.
4?
Okay. So I grew up with a lot of Disney movies and a lot of animated movies. I think that would be also the case for a lot of families and especially students here. I was in my teens, I think. I'm pretty sure when I was introduced to Studio Ghibli movies, and the one that I love the most is Princess Mononoke. That's my 4. You could argue that this is maybe not as obscure of a movie, but from my perspective, when I, as someone who grew up with a lot of Disney movies and later found out about Studio Ghibli, I think that Studio Ghibli has a couple of movies that also are very, very much worth checking out. It's not going to be for everyone. It's arguably Studio Ghibli's most violent movie. But I think there's so much excitement about the movie, about the way that it conveys its environmentalism message. If you don't know what it's about a prince who is trying to stop a war happening between humans who are trying to mine a forest for iron and the animal gods that live in the forest and are trying to fight them back so that they don't completely deforestate their forest or pollute their forest or ruin it. And first of all, the animation is very amazing. There are some crazy things that happen in the movie that...
It's like Avatar, but better.
Studio Ghibli is anime, right?
Sorry?
It's like
Studio Ghibli is anime, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the...
It's like the Pixar of anime. Yeah.
And the...
Pixar.
Yeah, I'll just say this real quickly. Very exciting movie, very thought-provoking movie, and the music is awesome, in my opinion, also.
I feel like calling Studio Ghibli anime is like calling
Anime.
is like calling it's like calling Toy Story a Cartoon Network show. It's like, no, they're not the same. Yes, it's made in the same.
You're saying it's better than anime.
There's like vaguely similar like styles, yes, but it's its own thing. It's not. I mean, like, anime just means animated something from Japan. That's as deep as that goes. So they're if you watched a Ghibli film and then thought, oh, I'll like anime, no, it's like they're like, I mean, even if you watched an anime and you said I'd like anime, it's like, no, there's like if you watched a Batman cartoon, that doesn't mean you're gonna like Avatar: Last Airbender. They're both American, but it doesn't really track. Very different things.
Get it right, Mark.
Yeah,
Okay.
for real.
Hey, I've never seen anime, so I'm just going off what people have told me.
It's very
Calm down.
Studio Ghibli is super good.
Okay.
Highly recommend.
All right. Number 4.
So I had my number 4 locked in, so I thought, and then I switched it right now. So I'm gonna put number 4 as my Patriot.
Ooh.
The Revolutionary War is an amazing war, I think. It's super interesting. A lot goes on. And the film is, I mean, it's like based off of a war. So it's like, it's not like we don't know what's going to happen because it's history. So it's in the past. So we obviously know what happens. But, and I get excited when I watch that movie. It's just like, it makes me feel like, oh, I wish I was in that time, like doing the same thing. I don't know. It makes me feel like a
Do
kid
you
again.
though?
Dang, having the 2 tomahawks and running through a forest.
That's fair. That's fair.
Hunting down redcoats. Maybe.
Oof.
That's a big that's like the movie your brother shows you.
Yeah, 100%.
I remember watching that movie for the first time with my older brother Ross, and he like made me. I was like 16. He made me an old fashioned, and we watched that
Ooh.
movie.
Oh
It was
my
like core
gosh.
memory for me.
Dude. Heck yeah.
I didn't watch this movie until I was 18. So I didn't have an older brother to show me, but I do think it's an awesome movie.
Very
think-
good movie.
I think
I
I
liked it a lot.
John Williams composed the movie.
How old were
apparently.
you
I did
when
not
you
know
watched
that.
it?
For the first time,
Don't lie. 12.
in
and a half.
between 17 and 19.
Oh, okay.
So
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have no idea how old I was. Probably like 13 or something like that.
Yeah, I would say the same.
We started watching it on the 4th this year and got like halfway through, like, because that thing is a marathon, dude.
Oh, for
that thing is
sure.
long. But,
it's good.
It's also got
I-
Heath Ledger, right?
It makes
Yeah.
you hate the enemies. I at least
Oh, yeah.
me, like I hate the enemies.
The
They're
English.
like I don't even know. They're annoying
The
voices.
the dragoons.
Well,
They just
you
sound
my
hate
so
people.
annoying.
you hate, you don't, or from my perspective, you don't hate all the British. You just hate specifically Jason Isaacs' character,
He's
Colonel
the-
Tabbington, the absolutely
the dragoon.
evil
Such a-
guy,
Yeah,
so
dude.
bastard.
Like all the redcoats I hate in that movie. They just all sound so obnoxious and annoying. And you just cheer for Mel Gibson.
That's the
Do you guys
American
remember
condition.
the cannonball shot from that movie?
Oh yeah.
Like the
Dude.
where it comes right. I when did that movie come out? 2000.
I thought it was
okay.
older.
So that's doable. I thought it came out in like the early 90s or
Yeah.
something.
Were
Yeah.
any of
I
you
remember
alive?
seeing that and being like, that
2000?
seems so
was
like
not.
out of place.
No,
Great
do you
movie.
guys remember that scene where like the little redhead kid's like, "I'm gonna kill me some redcoats"? This is actually him now.
I mean, the director did start his career in the early 90s, so it would make sense for him to still carry his style of intense action into the early 2000s also. He made Independence Day and Stargate.
He made Independent.
Dude,
Roland Emmerich.
dude, I grew up watching Stargate. That was so good.
Yeah, same.
All right, what's your number 4?
My number 4. There's 2 on my mind right now, but I'm kind of.
Dude, I've been
know
like
which-
switching
I know.
as people were talking.
No, this one. I think it should be higher. Okay, the number 4 and number 3 for me are interchangeable, but I'm gonna go with Princess Bride.
Oh, dude. See, that didn't even come to mind until you just said it. Like, there's so
It's-
many films that I'm just gonna
It's a
completely
movie you
forget
have
about.
to watch.
Dude, you have to watch
watch
that.
it. Billy Crystal.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, dude. Don't think about it.
Such a good film. Ugh.
So good, dude. I don't know. It's so enjoyable, and like choosing a movie for me, like the number 1 criteria. It's not the make or break, but as a filmmaker, I think you have to make your movie entertaining.
Yeah.
Like it has to be entertaining to some point, and I think Princess Bride just takes that to the next level.
Andre
It's
the
so
Giant.
funny. It's funny.
Inigo
like,
Montoya.
great
Andre the Giant's
action.
in it.
The characters are awesome. The storyline is super good. The world making is just weird and it's awesome. But like that movie's so good when they're like in the quicksand and like the rats are just like
The rodents of
movie's so
unusual
good.
size.
Oh,
Yes, yes.
That movie's so good. I
Never
love
go up against a Sicilian when death is on the.
That movie
What's
is
that?
the type of movie that like takes a bit. Like when he gets poisoned or whatever they do to him to like where he can't move
Yeah.
his body. It's like that's something you think about, like, oh, what is that? And then they do it, and then they drag it on for like 30 minutes,
Dude.
and it works though.
Dude, and
If-
the chocolate balls they have in that movie, they're so good. I was like,
It's literally Princess Bride is the type of film I imagine Sam Barton making when he gets to Hollywood.
Actually, that's true.
Like,
the Little Tomato and then Princess Bride 2.
the mozzarella game. Have you seen that? Dude, you need to watch it. Yeah. Sam did that, yeah. Directed, wrote, directed, and acted.
I've actually had a couple of arguments with a couple of people about this movie. I've
Oh,
met some
no.
people who aren't the biggest fans of this movie, actually. But for me, I do enjoy
Are they
this
people?
movie. Just kidding. They I won't say
No.
names, but
No.
they
You doesn't like Princess Bride? How do you
Bro,
not like
what?
Princess Bride? That's like a childhood movie for sure.
That he felt it was dated.
Oh
Of
my
course,
gosh.
it's. I mean,
No.
it's old. It's
Yeah,
not. It's
well,
like,
I
but
mean, it's a difference of opinion.
Nah,
but
dude, that thing stands the test of time.
I
for sure.
agree.
I think that movie
that's
that movie accomplishes something that I want to accomplish.
It's
which is
so
timelessness.
quotable.
It's not.
It's
I
like
don't
the
think that movie
most
ever goes
quotable
out of
film.
style. My name is Indigo Montoya.
No,
You
no,
killed
no.
my
Boo.
I'm partial to where's the key? I don't have it. Fezzik, tear out his arms. Oh, you meant this. I think that it's telling for me that a movie can commit to the type of campy energy that it has and make it fun, but also make it work in the context of the movie that makes it pass the time and stand the test of time.
Dude.
Yeah, I think it could have been on my fourth or third. So,
Dude, if
Great
I had
movie.
thought of it, it would have been like,
but if you're on your
Number
deathbed, that
3.
movie's gonna make you. You're gonna have a waterfall of emotions. You'll be
Oh.
laughing, crying.
bro. Literally.
angry.
Honestly, yeah, I would love to watch that right before I die. That would be such a good film to watch.
The sword fight, dude.
Oh,
So good. Such a good scene.
oh man.
More practical special effects.
Dude, yeah.
Yeah, and done in such a way. That's that type of like campy special effects where
The
when you watch it,
cliffs
it,
of
like,
insanity.
I would not want to see a remastered version of that where everything's CGI. That would upset
No.
me.
Yeah, I would. Oh my gosh.
It'd be so much worse because it's supposed to feel like a stage play, like
Yeah, it's
or like
they're
this kid's
reading.
imagination.
They're reading a
Yes,
book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so well done.
it is the kid's imagination. That's so true.
Another one. I haven't actually seen the whole thing. Robin Hood.
Oh
Men
my
in
gosh,
Tights.
I haven't seen the
It's
whole
like
thing too.
it's like the worst version of Princess Bride.
Is that the one where the king's like mole moves?
Yeah, it's like the worst possible version of Princess Bride, but it's like pretty funny.
What a
like they're-
horrible
Like he gets
film.
home and there his the attendant at his house is blind,
That
and his
movie's
house has been
funny.
ripped down to the foundation, but the attendant doesn't know that like there's no walls or anything. So he's like in the bathroom sitting there. It's
Yeah.
the funniest thing ever.
Oh my
But
gosh,
it's also terrible. The movie's horrible.
that's a horrible film. All right,
You're 4, Mark.
my number 4. So this one changed a couple times while we've been talking. Yeah, I mean, this isn't what I have, but it could easily be in the top 5. I think is the new Puss in Boots, The Last
Oh
Wish.
wow!
That film is so good.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think
that's a big take.
I think it could be in the top
That's a
5.
very
easily.
big take.
But the
Um,
one I chose is Finding Nemo.
That's 4.
Yeah,
So you were thinking about The Last Wish, and then you ended up on. Okay.
Finding Nemo. Yeah.
That's valid. Finding Nemo is valid.
Personally, I would put Incredibles above that.
Interesting. Okay. I don't like.
Finding Nemo has some really, really good morals in it, though.
Yeah,
And, like
I think it has,
messages. In
yeah.
that movie.
and that's why I chose it over Puss in Boots because like, I mean, Puss in Boots has a good story, but it's Finding Nemo just like the father son dynamic is so excellent, and like the the rebel teen kind of storylines, like the father son is something that the father son story and like relationship is something that I like putting into stories that I write, and so it's I don't know,
Puss in Boots is
And it's
very good,
a
but
great like adventure story as well.
it doesn't. Puss in Boots doesn't reach like the emotional the emotional highs
Yeah.
and lows that Finding Nemo does. It like Finding Nemo is one of those one of those Pixar films that, despite it being a children's movie, it's similar to Up in this way. It hits these emotional beats that you just don't see in films like Over the Hedge or like these children's films that
Yeah.
are like they're kids movies, but Pixar is able to get these moments that you would see in like a heavy drama and do them so well, and then still make the movie like fun and engaging for like a 6-year-old.
Engaging,
Wow.
uplifting. Yeah.
I think I would also put Incredibles above Finding Nemo, but I also love Finding Nemo a lot.
I just don't like the feel of The Incredibles. It feels like there's not enough score maybe. I don't know what it is, but it just like kind of drags a little bit for me.
You need to see it again then.
Coincidence?
They're both awesome. They're both awesome. Just to be clear, they're both awesome. I love them a lot.
I think Incredibles is
Pull yourself together.
It's my favorite Pixar as well. Yeah.
Number 3.
Oh, my number 3 is I don't know why I'm looking at the list.
Best Pixar is Ratatouille, though. I would say.
Debatable.
I don't know. I've seen them like once. I just don't want to watch a movie about a rat, if I'm being honest.
It's a good movie. It makes you want to cook stuff for whatever reason. Like you're like,
I gotta eat when I watch that movie.
I also
Makes me wanna go to
prefer
Paris.
Finding Nemo animation to Ratatouille and Incredibles, I would say.
my number 3 is Singing in the Rain.
Oh my
Mm.
god.
Oh, okay.
I
Interesting.
love this movie. This
Get
movie is
outta
very
here.
nostalgic for me. It was between this and I wanted to choose a musical because I think musicals are important. But I was going to choose either Prince of Egypt or this. And I decided on Singing in the Rain.
I'm gonna be honest, Donny. That takes almost as worse as saying mayo de noche instead of mayonnaise. It's a terrible take.
Singing in the Rain,
Terrible
Singing in the Rain
take
is
for number 3.
amazing. I do not know what you're talking about. I remembered Singing in the Rain as a kid very well because the two main characters are Don and Kathy, and my parents' names are Don and Kathy. And I remember
My parents just dance in the rain outside.
I was so obsessed with this film as a kid. I don't know why, because it wasn't the type of movie that I was into as a young kid. But like rewatching it later on, not sure if I would get the same experience. It's just as good.
It gave me like
It's-
fever dreams, bro.
it is so hectic. Like you'll just have like the speech therapist scene where they go in the Moses toes or roses, blah, blah. Like that scene comes out of nowhere and it's amazing. And the performances, what's Gene Kelly? Gene Kelly's screen presence is, in my opinion, the best Hollywood has ever had. He, like when he's on screen, you can't look away from him. He's got the $1 million smile, and there's so many sequences in that movie. This movie is not super old, but it's decently old, and the amount of production that went into it is insane. And it has a lot of things as a movie about film that you see in more recent releases, like them trying to do that thing, but not doing it to the same extent. Something like Babylon would be up there. Well, Babylon's a lot more allegorical, and they're trying a lot different things with it. But from a production and from a script standpoint, I think actually just outright, I think Singing in the Rain is the best movie about making movies. I like that movie. That movie's so amazing.
I really thought you were going to go through your whole list and I wouldn't know a single film that you were mentioning.
No.
But I'm glad there was one, at least.
This movie's so delightful to watch. So much fun. So many great visual gags too. The actors, what's his name? Donald O'Connor, who plays the other actor that worked with Gene Kelly. His physical acting in that movie and physical performance in different songs is mind-blowing to me. And also the ending is so great, very poignant, I think, for the characters in that movie as well, with Debbie Reynolds, Carrie Fisher's mom.
Gene Kelly?
The make 'em laugh scene, right? The one with that is a standout as well. It's just because that movie it'll tell its story for like 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden it'll be like, okay, we're done telling the story for like 20. We're gonna like have some random sequence that, while is like super important to the film, it just in the moment you're like, why is this dude like he's just running around a film set screaming, make 'em laugh, and doing like these like stunts, but it's just like it's intoxicating to watch. It's so good. One of the greatest movies ever made.
Is that your favorite
Easy.
musical?
There's some good musicals.
There are some amazing musicals out there.
Uh-huh.
Off the top of my head, Fiddler on the Roof is amazing.
That's
Yeah.
my favorite.
La La Land, more modern but still amazing.
Very good.
Chicago is amazing.
Les Miserables.
Les Miserables. For me, I watched my sister and my mom were watching that one time, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, why are they singing the whole time? That would upset me. I was like 13, but like I was like, can't they talk and then sing sometimes? Like, why do they gotta sing the whole time? It was like I was not about it as
Isn't
a
that like
kid.
a-
I never rewatched
Didn't
it.
Key and Peele make like a short based off of that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But Prince of Egypt would be another one for me. It's such amazing music. It's a little different. I don't know if Prince of Egypt would get there as a musical for me, because to me a musical is also about the choreography and about the dancing and about the like La La Land is one of those films that like really hits the mark on that.
I would
I would
say
compare to
Seven Brides for Seven Brothers also.
Seven
hits.
Brides for Seven Brothers is a classic. That's
That's-
something
that's-
that I used to
yeah.
watch with my older sister Karina. Yeah, there's too many musicals to count that
Yeah.
are amazing, but Singing in the Rain for me is like peak.
Number 3.
Okay, so this is a movie that I watched for the first time last year, and I've seen it a few more times since then. It's been a very this movie I've loved a lot more as I see it again, and I also recommend it to watch. This is a movie called Z. This is a film from 1969, and it's from Algeria. It's in French. The movie centers around a political election, and the government that is the incumbent government, they orchestrate a public assassination of their opponents, of the opponents in the opposing political party. And then that opposing political party tries to expose the government for all of their corruption and misdoings. And for a movie from 1969, in my opinion, this movie's editing makes it feel like it could have been released within the past 5 years. I think that it's way ahead of its time, and it's so well paced. I think it's very fast. It doesn't give me a chance to breathe. There's so much danger that different characters are possibly exposed to, so it makes the whole atmosphere very tense, because there's always people lurking behind them or around them because they're afraid that they'll be assassinated or targeted by the government. And it's very the message is very timely about fascism and other dictatorial governments that are just dehumanizing, and it's downright infuriating to me at some points of the story where it goes. It's also very complex with its political issues, but I do think it's a movie that I would like more people to check out. It's a
I've
very
not even heard of that.
intense, very thrilling movie.
I've only heard of it because of Big Joe telling me about it. Big Joe does a top 100 of every like new movies not new movies of the year, but movies he's seen for the first time that year, right? And I remember him talking about Z, and it was what position did it get?
This was my favorite movie that I watched last year for the first time.
Yeah, and he was telling me about it. It's been on my list, but I haven't gotten to watching it yet.
Interesting. Number 3.
My number 3 I'm gonna take the same route as Donny did and go musical. Is Sound of Music for me. I love that movie.
Great
It's a-
movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great musical. Just the scenery and it's like beautiful. I went to France 2 years ago, I think, and I was just like the whole time I was like this. I was like I went to like the countryside too, so I was like, oh, this feels just like Sound of Music. Oh, I mean, although it's like Austria, it's not. I mean, it's kind of similar, but not really. But yeah. Also, I just like I watched it a lot with my mom for some reason, mainly because I was homeschooled, but she was whenever she wanted to watch something, I had to like watch it with her. So I couldn't really get out of it. So I was like kind of sat there and I just learned to enjoy it. And submerse myself in um like that area of art, I guess. So that'd be my number 3. I'm kind of upset with my number 4 choice. Not gonna lie, I'm like running through movies in my head. I'm like, oh, what a terrible choice for 4.
My mom went to go see, she went to go see Sound of Music with her grandma, I think, and they ended up leaving the movie early. It was just like back when it came out. They ended up leaving the movie early because my mom couldn't handle how loud it was. It's kind of funny to think about that, and then now think about like we're all like obsessed with like IMAX and Dolby Vision.
Freaking
We like want
Nolan
it louder and
films.
louder and louder. Yeah, Nolan films are a great example. And like back then, like movies were shown like at least on that scale were so new, and she like couldn't handle just Sound of Music. It's not exactly like attacking your ears or anything. It's
I mean, back then it might have been.
maybe, but yeah, great movie. The lead actress is amazing. Julie Andrews, yeah. And there's the Good Night song. That's a great song. You're 16 going on 17. Like some iconic songs from that movie. And some iconic shots of the countryside as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Actually, and I think in when she's roaming through like the hills, you can see like a modern building in the background. Pretty sure it's like a white modern building. Like I just saw it the other day, or not the other day, but like 4 months ago when I watched it. But it's like I always look for stuff like that now, because in the Dirty Harry movie, they're like walking on the dock and you can see like the camera guy and like the director's shadow in the background, like on the dock. So like every now and then I'm like looking for stuff. But I just happened to see a modern building in there. It's funny.
When I was a kid, I did not want to watch this movie because I was thinking it's a 3-hour long musical. No, thank you. I'll pass on this time. So I didn't watch this until I was in my teens. But when I actually sat down to watch it, the 3 hours flew by for me so quick. I'm like, I really wish I was a more open child, because the 3 hours are very well spent. Like I was mentioning, the 3 hours take advantage of whatever happens with the songs and the music and the charm and the acting and the characters. It's so much fun. I'm a little saddened that Christopher Plummer apparently is very was outspoken about not liking the movie apparently, but that's okay. A lot of people will love it enough for him.
So my number 3. This might be the hardest one to come up with, but I think we have to put. No one has mentioned a Tarantino movie yet. I think Pulp Fiction deserves that spot. So my number 3 is gonna have to be Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, that's a good one.
There's numerous different movies that I have in mind that could take this spot, especially like at least one comedy or something in here. But Pulp Fiction in my mind is my favorite Tarantino. It's not like the biggest production that he's done. It's not like the most absurd or extravagant in my mind, but I think it's like Tarantino at his this movie is Tarantino. Like the writing is absolutely phenomenal. The acting, the actors he chose, just amazing. Like the
Samuel Jackson as Jules.
yeah, like
Best character.
the connection that Samuel Jackson and Travolta have in that movie.
Come on.
is awesome. Like I think out of like a movie that's so like gritty and like a very rated R movie, the messages in this movie are like absolutely spotless. Like they're so good.
I still need to see it.
Super, in my mind, super Catholic messages in this movie. Even though there's a lot of crap in it. Like
Yeah.
It's very, very rated R. But yeah, I think that movie's just phenomenal. I love Tarantino's how he chooses to like his cinematography in his movies. I love his cinematography in his movies.
Yeah, if you get a chance to ever take spiritual content in mainstream films with Professor Bill Marcellino here at JP Catholic, you might get to hear him talk about Pulp Fiction and its possible hidden underlying faith-based messages or spiritual messages that I thought were very interesting and very intriguing. but kind of like what Tom was saying, it is a very hard R, but it is, I do think, worth watching.
Super good. I could talk about this movie all day.
Amazing,
This movie is
amazing
just
movie.
phenomenal in my mind.
That film, I like. That's another one of those movies where when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is
This is cinema.
Yeah, like no, but really, like it's sort of a basic film bro take. A lot of people, I mean, it's become less popular now because it was so popular before. At least in like the like online groups and other groups that talk about film a lot. Like Pulp Fiction was the greatest movie ever made, and then it became lame because everybody thought that.
Yeah.
I'm glad Tom did it because I was trying to put a Tarantino movie in this list. Like I was thinking Glorious Bastards, or Pulp Fiction were my two, but I'm glad you put this movie in it because this movie is like, it's everything you want from a movie just shoved into 2 hours. It's so good. It hits all the marks. It's amazing. And it's his second movie. It's his sophomore film. That's crazy that he was able to make this as his second movie ever.
The thing about this movie is that I didn't want to put it on the list, just because, and like me personally, the first time I watched it, I didn't like it. The first time I watched it, I was like, what's the point of this movie? I had to watch it twice, and then I was like, okay, I get it. Like it immediately clicked. Like the moment I pressed play on the second watch through, I was like, dude, this movie's that movie, you know? Like, so maybe if you're in your deathbed, you can't afford to watch it twice, but it's so good.
It just hates it and then dies.
That'd be brutal.
Curse you, cruel world.
It is 2.5 hours long, so that's 5 hours if you watch it twice.
Oh man, dude, number 3. Oh my gosh, I changed so many times.
I am sweating, dude. This
Yeah,
movie is
I
hot.
know.
So hot.
Yeah. Well, we can pick up the pace a little bit here.
I am
But, like,
roasting.
Dude, number 3, I wanted to put a couple different Nolan films. I wanted to put Interstellar so bad. I wanted to put Oppenheimer so bad. But I think if we're talking like, it's Baby Driver.
Oh, okay,
I thought you were
okay.
about to say
I like that
the
choice.
other Nolan movie. No, Baby
What,
Driver's
Inception?
awesome.
Nah,
No,
dude.
No, the Nolan movie.
Interstellar?
Dark
No,
Knight.
the Nolan movie, yes.
Nah, bro. You won't catch me
Baby Driver's awesome.
talking about
Baby
Batman.
Driver's so good.
Dude, it's so good. The editing,
Awesome.
superb.
If you want to watch
Best
a movie
editing, dude.
and realize what editing does for a film,
Yeah.
because most people don't think about that.
Yeah.
At least as like casual moviegoers, because why would you? The whole point of it is that you don't. But when you watch that film and you realize how many cuts there are per minute, it's just nonstop, go,
Yeah.
go. And it's
It's
the perfect
fun.
example.
It's exciting. It's
Yeah.
fast paced.
Yeah.
Like the rhythm is just crazy.
Music's awesome.
I was gonna say the
Music
soundtrack is killer.
Yeah, the soundtrack is killer, dude.
I feel
the
there's not
acting
a
was
lot of-
great.
There's not a lot of good car movies that come out. I love
Yeah.
cars,
Yeah.
so that movie
Yeah.
is just like
It's
The driving practicality of that movie is just really good.
Yeah.
It's spot
It's-
on.
it's-
a lot of
I'd say.
like
yeah.
Fast and Furious over the top,
Yeah,
but it
no.
was like
It's
controlled drive. Like it was so sick.
I
A lot
haven't-
of practical effects in that movie too,
Yes,
and
a lot.
practical stunts.
I haven't seen enough films to expand this list, but I would put it in a box with like Whiplash.
Oh,
For,
that's a
like,
good one.
Style of like film having like music kind of be the thing
won a
that
couple
drives.
Oscars, didn't it?
It
I-
actually
yeah.
did not. It
It
lost.
was
to-
nominated.
It was nominated for a couple. The winner.
Oh really?
Yeah, the winner.
Not even like sound design.
It was nominated for sound design, but the winner, if I recall correctly,
Don't say
movie?
Avatar.
the movie that beat Baby Driver in the categories it was nominated for was Dunkirk,
Dunkirk.
which I also think is great. Which I also think is
was
great.
Phantom Thread in that year?
It was. I don't think it was nominated for
Okay.
for those Oscars.
Dunkirk would have been better as a documentary.
Dunkirk
Number
is
2.
amazing. Don't hate on Dunkirk, bro. Dunkirk is so good.
No,
That
it
movie
is, it
I need
is.
to watch it.
awesome.
I haven't seen it.
I Dunkirk is one of those films where I'll watch it and I'll be like, this is the best thing ever. This is so good. I get it. I am so smart and I understand everything. And this movie is so
That's
good.
like the simplest Nolan film.
And then I'll not. No, it's not. That's the thing. And then won't watch it for like 6 months. I've seen that movie 4 times. I don't watch a lot of movies 4 times, but I I will wait 6 months and I'll watch it. I haven't watched it for 6 months, and I'm like, I don't remember why I like it. And then I'll watch it again. And I'll be like, yes, this is so. And then it happens. It's
So
the
every
cycle.
other time you
The
watch
cycle
it.
continues, and I'm like, I just like I'll forget why it's a weird movie, but it's so good. It's amazing. My number 2.
Yeah.
My number 2. I don't think anybody else would have picked this. My number 2 is 12 Angry Men.
Interesting.
I chose
Yeah.
this movie because I watched this movie for the first time actually pretty recently, like maybe a year or 2 ago. And I was on I was searching for like the closest thing I could find to perfection in a film, and I was trying to watch all of the movies that were like, this is so close, like this is so perfect. And I turned this movie on with my little brother and my best friend, and we like movies, and we're into like we'll try to find things that are very artful, but we're not like, at the end of the day, our favorite movies are like The Wolf of Wall Street and like but, I mean, no, my my taste would be, I like entertaining stuff. I like something with energy. And you look at 12 Angry Men, you're like, it's about 12 dudes in a room. It's in black and white, and they're just like arguing the whole time. Like, who wants to watch it? And then you watch it, and you're like, oh my goodness, it's so perfect. It's like
12 Angry Guys.
it's the closest thing I've ever seen to a perfect movie, in my opinion. I think as far as it checks off every box. It's the closest thing, in my opinion, I've ever seen to a perfect movie. It's one of the greatest scripts ever written. It's super well shot. The acting is excellent. It's very much that old style of acting, that old school of acting, where they feel like stage actors, but there's something about it where it doesn't lose any, like, for me, some of those older films, you don't get as much immersion into the world as you would with something more modern, like a Pulp Fiction. But with this film, I didn't feel that way. It felt like real, and it felt like you were there, and you kind of like, at certain points, you kind of like want to make arguments yourself. And you're trying, like, I remember pausing it, being like, well, okay, but like, and then arguing with my friend about like why I thought this person thought that, it's not like, it's pretty not black and white. That's sort of the opposite of the like point of the movie, but it's amazing. It's perfect. Everybody should watch it. Don't be turned off by it being old or being in black and white or anything like that. Like, the minute you get over subtitles and black and white, there's a whole new world of movies to watch. It's so good.
Number 2, Joe.
I just also wanted to say real quickly about 12 Angry Men. It's also like 90-ish minutes, so you have a short
and short.
time to watch it. It's not that long, but yeah. So my number 2, this is one of the more popular movies that I had for my for this top 5, but I do think it's worth preserving and continuing to watch it for the future. I think it's a movie of the 2010s that is worth still watching and talking about and analyzing. Arrival,
Oh,
Denis Villeneuve's Arrival.
love that film.
The first time I watched it, I went with my dad's a university professor, and the university he teaches at has a theater where they play movies. I went with my dad and my mom, and my sister thought that I'll go see maybe like the first half of the movie. She wasn't planning on seeing the whole thing. She did end up seeing the whole movie, and this is also a personal pick because I remember seeing my dad so excited for this movie. I haven't seen him get this excited for a lot of movies, and he was very fascinated about the message about communicating with others and the importance of languages, and also the ending being so humane and so profound. It broke me the last time I watched it. I think it's a very phenomenal movie, very understated sci-fi film as well. I love the music and the cinematography that this movie has, and I think it's worth seeing maybe a few times. I've seen it a few times, and I plan to see it a few times more.
Number 2.
So I have a number 2 in mind, but I feel like it might be Tom's number 1. So I don't know if I should say it or not.
You can say it. I can have a placeholder.
Go for it.
So
Go ahead.
so I think my number 2 would be Godfather. I think that's an
Fire.
amazing film. It's a classic. It's definitely timeless. I mean, like the only reason why like movies is such a big deal in my life is just because my brother came to school here, so he was like in media, and then like he would like come home and like, oh, you just want to make a movie? And we're like, oh yeah, sure. And then I would just like watch like tons of movies with him and stuff like that. And then for some reason my parents are like into movies, so like
For some reason.
yeah, so I'd just watch Godfather all the time with my brothers and my dad. So I think it's like holds like a close place in my heart because like me and all my sibling or all the dudes in my family watch it. So it's just like, and it's kind of like makes you want that, you know? It's like, oh, like I need a conciliere. Who's it gonna be?
Dude, that movie is
It's just
phenomenal.
yeah,
It's just like
the
story
stories.
is so good.
Yeah,
It's so good. Dude, Brando's, I think it's Brando's best. Maybe that or like
I would agree.
or On the Waterfront. That's a really good one.
Brando suffers from himself being like Apocalypse Now. He could have been one of the greatest roles. I mean, it is one of the greatest roles.
That's not my number 2, but that was almost my number 2.
The fact that Apocalypse Now, him in Apocalypse Now is what it is amazing because he was a total idiot on that set.
Yeah.
He was trying to ruin that set by any means necessary, and somehow it still came out amazing. But on The Godfather, he was like all in, and he really put some work towards that one, and it shows. He's amazing.
For a movie that you haven't seen and you're about to die, like Godfather has to be there. It's maybe the most like legendary movie of all time.
Definitely, it's I'd be pretty pissed if I died and never seen The Godfather. So.
Francis Ford Coppola is one of the greatest directors of all time. Great movie.
Number 2.
Okay, this one, I think it's super important culturally. I think this movie has so many references, and me personally, it's my favorite horror movie. And we haven't had a horror movie yet, so this movie's just amazing. I love everything about this movie. The Shining.
I'm glad somebody did.
And that's the second Kubrick movie. I mean, that's not bad at all. I love Kubrick, but The Shining, I think, just has there's so many references to it in like culture. Different movies reference it, music references it.
Great actors.
Yep. Jack Nicholson did it.
He's actually here right now too.
Yeah. It's not even. Like for a horror movie. There's not like jump scares or anything, but that's
the build
whole
up.
movie
It's the
is
build
just,
up.
Like, I feel isolated while watching a movie. I feel cold, and I feel like some sort of. I feel it's eerie. It's so eerie.
It's uneasy.
Kubrick
Like,
is
that
so
movie,
is so wild.
Just like the shots down the hallways, man, and then when the whole like ending
The labyrinth.
20, 30 minutes of the movie while they're down in the kitchen. I was like, oh my gosh, this movie's crazy. And it wasn't a movie. Like a lot of movies, you'll feel like claustrophobic in if you're like stuck in one room or the movie only takes place in like a house. This movie, I never felt like that. It had like scale to it, which I love. I love movies with scale.
Kubrick is the type of director who can take your eyes and your ears, and as long as he gets control of those, he can affect your other senses. Like you were saying, it makes you feel isolated. It really does. Like you feel things that aren't happening to you, but he's able to something he's able to do with where he puts the camera, whatever he's doing with the camera, and whatever he's doing with the sound and the music, it just affects you like physically. The blood coming out of the
oh my gosh,
goodness,
like that.
so
It's
good.
like it's scary. It's like genuinely scary. It's not like I'm gonna like jump out of my seat, but like watching that, I'm like, dang, dude, he's doing something. Like,
And then somehow people like Doctor Sleep. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I wanted to say I actually watched this movie, The Shining. It's such a big part of culture that I had not seen. I knew what happened in the movie, but I didn't actually watch it until recently. So I have seen it now. I read about a study that some scientists did a while ago, calling the "Here's Johnny" scene the scariest scene in film according to science, because the people that they were testing with had the most noticeable increase in heart rate when that scene popped up. So I thought that was interesting.
Awesome scene.
All right, my number 2 is also a horror, A Quiet Place. Horror, sci-fi.
Good choice.
The story is so good, very pro-life film, probably unintentionally, but or not, I don't know. But like, yeah, I think it's such a good film, and it's kind of the film that I had in my mind's eye coming to JP Catholic as like something that I was basing everything that I was going to do off of in the way of like implementing good Judeo-Christian values into films while also making it something that anybody would watch. Like no one wants to watch God's Not Dead, if we're being honest. But like this Quiet Place, everyone liked it. Everyone loved it, and it was the values of the film are just so good, and like the CG is so good, and it's a whole new experience as well. So much of it was silent because of one of the characters is deaf, and so experiencing the world of this like alien invasion through her was just crazy.
The director, writer,
Actor.
and actor John Krasinski. I watched a lot of the behind the scenes, a lot of interviews about this film when it came out. I was really fascinated by it. I like John Krasinski a lot because I'd seen him obviously in The Office, but he had been in 13 Hours and Jack Ryan, which I also really liked him in. So I was sort of following his career at the time, and when this movie came out, he spoke a lot about it being a movie about about family.
Yeah.
And about the parents, and obviously, I mean, spoiler warning, but he sacrifices himself at the end in a very, very good scene. It's not only that, like, you can talk about how they did so well with the monster, or they came up with these super interesting set pieces like the flooded basement. But what really makes that film is the core of it, and that's that family dynamic. And that's why, to me, when I see that, and people are saying like, oh, it's unintentionally, I've heard that take before. I disagree. I think you can't make a movie that is true about family like that without being pro-life.
Yeah.
And obviously they have the whole thing with her being pregnant and still giving birth to the child in that circumstance.
Yeah, and that's the climax of the film. Is this
New
alien
life.
beast is coming up the stairs as she's giving birth, and it's like this is what they're willing to sacrifice to bring life into the world. And
it's funny how many Catholics that
insane.
movie turned off with its trailers, because people, for some reason, were under the impression that it was going to be some, like snuff film type thing, but it just isn't. And then you watch Quiet Place Part 2, which I also really enjoyed.
It's actually, I like Quiet Place.
Yeah, which I was worried about it, but it has Cillian Murphy in it, so it's bound to be the greatest thing ever. And
Maybe I need
that
to watch
movie
it
just
again.
doubles down. It just doubles down on
Yeah.
what the first one was trying to get across, and from a different angle. But I think John Krasinski. Well, I won't put words in his mouth, but to me, like, he has to be thinking about it in that way.
It's also like it also has a male character that you just don't find in like almost anything now. Like, it's a good representation of like
A father,
true masculinity,
Yeah.
fatherhood, like virtue. It's
that
it's
Aragorn
so
type
good, dude. Yeah.
character. Yeah.
All right, number 1, numero uno.
Okay, so number 1, I had this was like a foregone conclusion. I was choosing this movie is Donnie Darko. It's the greatest movie ever made. It's the greatest movie ever made, bar none.
Shut up.
Period.
If you've
The
heard
end.
about this film, comment below.
It is.
What are you
talking about? A lot of people know about this movie. I have not chosen any obscure films. Okay, I could have chosen some weird ones, but I didn't. Okay,
There's a great line in that movie though. It's like,
there are lots of great lines in that movie.
Good stuff.
I will
Good
quote
stuff,
them
huh?
starting now. The
It's a
next hour and a half of
cigarette.
this podcast will be me
I've
quoting the
never
movie
heard
word
of
for
it
word.
before I talked to you.
Bro, there's
about
a
your favorite
scene- there's a
films.
s-
I was like,
Shut
what
up.
the heck is
shut up.
Shut up. And then there's another scene
Smoking
where
cigarettes.
his friend hands him his cigarette, and
Good
then
stuff,
I'm gonna
huh?
cuss right now, but he goes,
hold
he
up.
hands him his cigarette, and he goes, "Pretty good shit, huh?" And he goes, "It's a fucking cigarette." It's the greatest line
I'm sorry,
in any
Mom.
movie ever. It's so good. The whole movie is amazing. I identify with Donnie Darko, the character, so
Wait,
completely.
Now I'm gonna-
your name is Donnie, correct?
Bro, that
Yes,
movie
it is.
Is
Okay.
like, oh,
It's-
bro,
it's
all the
excellent. Is that what you're
characters
about
in
to
that
say?
movie they're so mean, bro.
Gosh darn it,
Everyone
Donnie.
in that movie is so
Yeah,
mean.
dude.
There's a scene in that movie where they're shooting a BB gun at this like beer bottles, and one of them starts talking about how he thinks Smurfette
That's a pretty
is attractive.
derogatory scene,
And then-
bro, not
and
gonna
then
lie.
Donnie Darko goes on like a 2-minute rant, or longer than that, a rant about how Smurfs are asexual and that she was made by Gargamel. And to me, this is like, that's me, bro. I do that. I'm the guy who does that. That is the most amazing scene ever put to a film. I don't understand how people don't think this is the greatest movie ever made.
The most-
It
that's
is so
a-
the opening sequence,
Dude,
the song, the
Okay,
the
it has-
shot where they're jumping out the bus. Oh my goodness! And then
soundtrack's
that chat up, it's
amazing.
so good.
The soundtrack's super good. Head over heels.
Gosh darn it, Donnie. I'm gonna have to click the explicit content button on the Spotify upload page.
It was.
Ugh.
You
Just
can't
because
talk
of you.
about Donnie Darko without talking about the cigarette scene. It's so good.
You
The
definitely
movie
talk
is
about it without the
amazing.
cigarette scene. That's like the
Okay,
most
I want to watch
out
it
of-
now.
It's
I was gonna say you can talk about it without talking about
Yeah,
cigarettes.
exactly.
All right, what's your number one?
Okay. Just real quickly on Donnie Darko, I've seen it a few times because I want to understand it. Because it's a confusing movie,
You have to watch it.
but it's
All right, I'm not watching it.
it's fun.
you have to watch
It
it
is-
and think.
It is artistically very impressive, though.
Yeah. But when you watch it next time, just think of like, this is literally Donald from Jimmy Catholic. And then maybe
Donald Conklin,
it'll make sense, I think.
the Kongster.
I already associate it with somebody
Donster.
else I used to follow on social media,
Donklin?
so yeah.
The new thing. Donklin.
Okay.
Number one.
Yeah, so my number one, I'm gonna bring Kubrick back again, at least one more time. I don't know if anybody else is gonna bring him up again, but I was talking with Donnie beforehand. This movie has been a movie that that means a lot to me. Ever since I saw it, the first time I saw it, I actually didn't love it as much, but I've seen it more times since then, and it grows exponentially on me. It's a movie called. We haven't picked any. I don't think we've picked any war movies yet. This movie is called Paths of Glory. This is a movie from 1957 set in World War I, where the main character, played by Kirk Douglas, he's trying to defend in court some of his soldiers who are accused of cowardice for failing to carry out a suicide mission in war. And the movie makes me angry because it shows the extent of what toxic masculinity does to people, the consequences of that, how some generals abuse their power in wasting human lives, their own soldiers in the war. And the battle scenes for the 1950s are very impressive. There's one battle scene, but it's still very impressive. And very unexpected turns happen in the movie that make me very emotional, particularly the ending of the movie. I don't know if anybody of you have an answer for this, but if you had to think of a favorite movie scene in any movie, the ending to this movie, Paths of Glory, is my favorite movie scene of all time. If there's the movie touches on faith and destiny and also standing up to your own death, because there are soldiers who are getting emotional and also breaking down over the fact that they either have to die on the battlefield or die because of a court that is determining whether they are cowards for failing to kill themselves in battle. but the ending is such a hopeful ending and a cathartic ending that balances out all the despair and bleakness of war that it just breaks me. And I feel I tried to talk about this movie with other people because I think that it's such an important film that has remained important for several decades, and it's and like I mentioned, the ending of this movie. There's no other scene that I've ever seen at this point in my life that means more to me than this ending. I think it's one of the most profoundly humane and hopeful scenes ever, and I think the whole movie is great.
All right.
Fire.
Bar.
I think. Well, my number one hasn't changed. It's been number one since ever since I watched the movie. Actually, it's Count of Monte Cristo. It's also based off a book by Alexander Dumas. The reason why, anyways, I mean, the reason why it's my number one is because I like to relate to it a lot. I feel like I've experienced a lot of the same things in that movie. I don't know what it was.
I really thought your number one was going to be The Great Gatsby.
Oh no!
That's
That
make the whole
slipped my
podcast
mind.
Great
That
Gatsby
does not
themed.
deserve number one.
That is
I'll
defi-
give you, it's a good movie.
It's an
No,
amazing movie. I love that movie. But I forgot about that movie actually.
Great Gatsby themed
The
podcast.
Great Gatsby book.
Oh, the Great
Or you
Gatsby
watched the
books
movie.
definitely.
I've read the book.
Yeah, I know. I'm
No,
not
you-
saying
no,
you
you-
haven't.
no, you
I'm
have
just
not.
saying like the book.
Oh.
You're good. You haven't read it.
Huh?
You haven't read it.
Hey, did you know you can get the mayor on this podcast? Did you know that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mars is really good friends with the mayor.
Yeah.
You can get him on the podcast.
Cool.
Anytime.
They're buddies.
Talk
Cool.
about
Yeah, mayor stuff.
Mayor stuff.
Howdy.
But yeah. Yeah. I was no, yeah. I would say I love that movie. The movie's amazing. The book's amazing. Yeah, and just the treasure he finds, like how it relates to my
Whoa,
life. Is, like,
spoilers.
finding it's definitely not finding God because I've been Catholic my whole life, but like definitely growing a relationship deeper with God in the time of my life in which I grew close to the book.
It's a movie where they do a redemption story, right?
Yeah.
Like Catholic redemption story.
Yeah,
So
it has
basically-
great virtues, and it's just like shows that like the vices are like the best route and like your decisions, which is like revenge in the movie or book rather.
Yeah, it's a pretty
All
fun
right.
movie. My favorite, or I think.
Oh
the
wait,
number
can I
one
get
movie-
can I get an honorable mention?
No,
is-
no.
No, honorable.
We'll do one round of honorable
Yeah,
mentions
okay,
after.
Okay.
My number one movie I think someone should watch. It's another Caviezel movie, but it's The Passion of Christ.
Oh,
That's a good one.
I think, dude, The Passion. And
Yeah.
that
I was hoping.
movie. Holy crap! Man.
I actually cried for the
Like,
first time this past Easter. Or
Yeah.
Really?
watching it.
Yeah, The
Dude.
Passion is one of the
every year.
2 movies to make me cry. I think.
That and Wonder Woman for me.
Wonder Woman, yeah.
Like the OG Wonder Woman, like the TV series.
No, the movie that just came out. Not the second one, but like the first one.
Oh, it was Wonder Woman
you
the year
actually
before that
cry
did
in
it
it?
for me.
Yeah, I teared up,
I
bro.
thought you were
Wait,
joking.
No. when he died, when he like, I was like, bro, why did they like this guy's so?
Oh, you actually cried during Wonder Woman?
No, I didn't bawl, but I
Bro
like,
was balling.
I teared.
No, The
I won't lie, I
Glossy
teared.
eyed.
I cried a little bit.
Dude,
I cried.
Passion
I cried
is-
more than Passion.
It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece if you separate film and art. Like artistically, I think it's a masterpiece, and then also film wise, like cinematically, I think it's a masterpiece. Like the talent and skill that it went into that movie to make it, and like all the behind the scenes is just crazy. The fact that they had like Latin mass before every single shoot was crazy. I also love how Mel Gibson he really put like it's not like a historically, like obviously Jesus was not crucified in the way that he was in that movie historically, but Mel Gibson made it that way to connect with people.
It was more
in a-
fitting.
yes,
It was more
it's
fitting.
more like you can make more of a personal connection with that just because those are the images and things that we've seen throughout church history and everything.
Is it not
Um,
pretty accurate though?
No, it's not like totally not accurate. It's just like Jesus didn't get he did not
Oh,
get,
like the,
the
like,
nails through. Yeah,
very
you know,
Yeah, it
stuff
would be
like
through
that.
the like the
I
wrist.
also love, and I think it's super important for making a movie of the Passion or the days leading up to it. You need to see like the presence of the devil in the in like Jesus was getting tormented left and right, like 24/7 all day, and I think this movie does an amazing job at like portraying how like vicious and how detrimental the devil was in those like the last hours of him being on Earth. Yeah, I think that movie's it's amazing. I think it's Caviezel's hands down his best performance. I think the gruesome, like how gruesome the movie is fitting as well. Just because I think Catholics kind of struggle with not understanding or putting like a mark on how much he suffered.
And sacrificed.
Yeah.
And I would say just people in general.
I think the Blessed
People in
Mother,
general lack the like scope of what it means to sacrifice.
Yeah, he's in the garden like sweating blood, and they show that, and then also just the relationship that the Blessed Mother had with Jesus. Like the backstory is just like we've never seen another like piece of cinema that demonstrates that like
it almost felt
Mary
like they were
being like a human, almost not being like some.
Well, she was human.
Yeah, yes, I know, but I'm saying like in that movie they make it seem like
The humanizer.
yes,
Yeah.
they humanize her, but in the best way, like in a
Yes.
very good way.
Very
They also
motherly
do
way.
the same thing
Yeah.
to Jesus, which I love too. You can see him acting like a person. You know, I know Jesus of Nazareth. He kind of acts like an alien a little bit, but
True.
No,
True.
that-
I will
talking about
agree
the
with that
movie,
criticism
yeah,
of that
Jesus
film.
and
Yeah, he does act a little
Yeah,
creepy.
yeah.
I mean, it's so interesting. Like, I was listening to Father Mike Schmitz yesterday, I think, and he was talking about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane before his passion, and like he was crying, bro. Like, God incarnate was crying because he didn't want to like go through this torture and die. So like, how natural is it for us to not want that either?
And then
I don't know. I just thought that was
just one more thing about the movie, like I love how Gibson put in at one point Jesus getting crucified, and the cross falls over, and like it falls face first, and like you can see like the cross like levitating, because like he wasn't supposed to die right there. He's supposed to be on the cross. It was just, I love that part of the movie. It's so sick. And like the camera goes down, you can see the cross like levitating above the ground.
I like
at one
how?
point.
How does the camera look?
But yeah, that movie's awesome. I think that's like, I think every person should watch that movie.
Yeah,
I think there's a
100%.
lot of
yeah.
a lot of
Catholic values in that movie.
just a little bit. I think the values in that movie can actually change people. So
Yeah, hopefully.
that's my number one.
The public perception of that film is very interesting as well.
Yeah.
Like the way people reacted to it. A lot of people did not like it, not for any concrete reasons. Well, there were some people had their arguments.
A lot of non-religious people were like
upset by it.
Yeah, it's like this is gory for the sake of gore.
Yeah,
Like,
they thought that Catholics as a whole for a time were characterized as being like not soft, but being obsessed with the violence and
Yeah.
really just wanting to watch some guy get like most people talked about the film as like ultra violent for the sake of ultra violence, like you said, and said there was no redeeming elements to it. But I think if you watch the film, and perhaps you have to be Catholic to really get it in the way. Like I would not,
Or
if
at
I
least
was
just
trying to,
know
if
who
I
would
was trying
say-
to convert somebody, I would not show them the Passion.
Or
Yeah.
but just know the story of Jesus.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
you have to
that
be
film,
Christian
when
to
you understand what they're saying, and I think there's also the element of like it's in Aramaic, Hebrew, and Latin, and it's very to a certain extent that movie can push a random viewer away. But for me personally, I remember when I think of that movie, I think of it in English. It doesn't. It's almost like that movie is speaking in tongues, which is wild.
I forgot it was in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Latin until Donny said it. I was like, maybe
Yeah.
it's because
So
I.
you can like put
Well-
a voice to everyone's.
Yeah.
I think it's just the film is so steeped in like true deep emotions that are not, they're so understandable to anybody who knows what's happening, that you don't need to be able to understand what they're even saying half the time. Like, you get it. And the acting, like, Jim Caviezel is amazing. The guy who plays Peter, don't know his name, but he's also stellar.
John.
Pontius Pilate is amazing. And that
Mary.
movie makes me feel bad for Pontius Pilate. I'm always, like, rooting for
Yeah.
like, every time I watch a
Seriously.
movie, I'm like, this time when I watch it, he's going to do the right thing.
Every other representation of Pontius Pilate,
Sucks.
yeah, it sucks.
I think that one is. I think what Mel
I think it
Gibson did
must be
is
so
realistic.
accurate, yeah.
Yeah, it's realistic. Like Pontius Pilate was not a terrible person, but he wasn't.
Did you?
He wasn't a follower of Christ, and he was a fair guy, but he still he gave the ultimate
Yeah.
power.
He was
Like,
worldly.
He was a
He was
politician.
worried about, like, okay, well, if I'm
Power.
governing these
Losing
people
power.
and they're rioting, like, what are we going to do about it? Like, he was worried about worldly things. And Jesus tells him, he goes, this isn't what's important.
And the relationship he has with his wife in that movie.
It's
Yeah.
also excellent. Yeah.
And then just like the the things the cast and crew went through on set.
Yeah, I heard
Like
there's
Jim
a lot of spiritual
Caviezel.
warfare.
Jim Caviezel got struck by lightning
Yeah.
in the last take
Isn't
of the
that
film,
wild?
yeah, yeah.
and had like 12 years of like surgeries and rehab. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, my number one.
Aristocrats. Yeah, that's what I meant.
A Bug's Life.
A bug.
It's actually Mr. Bean's holiday. No, I mean I would love to just put a trilogy, but I'll just put the Fellowship of the Ring.
That's my honorable mention. is
That's
for
a
sure.
valid choice. The Fellowship doesn't
so-
reach the highs, but it's
Yeah.
better at, like, the core.
Yeah, yeah.
Potatoes.
I would like if I was going to choose one for like excitement, I would choose Return of the King for sure. Except for like
you fools.
the Frodo Sam stuff is I've always just
Sauron the
so
Stinky.
so boring.
So
Have you seen that
boring.
meme?
What are you talking about? This is
Wait,
great
what was boring?
scenes.
It's just
Great
like
scenes.
all the Frodo and Sam stuff in the Return of the King is I
It's
would
ki- it's kind of a
always
burden.
fast forward it. Like we used to watch this.
Like you don't like them seeing them arguing and stuff.
No, I just found it boring. Like
Right, but
that whole
Shelob-
storyline, because I
Shelob's good.
just wanted the battle scenes, man. And Return of the King just
Is
is
it-
endlessly.
Is it in?
It's just
Yeah.
so good,
The
dude.
battles are like hours long.
Yeah, it's so
Well,
good.
I think
Hey,
hey,
one
one of the
gosh.
best battles is in Two Towers.
Yeah,
Helm's
Helm's Deep, oh my
is
God.
Helm's
amazing.
Deep's
Yeah.
pretty good, but
do you-
dude, Two Towers as a book is better than the movie because Two Towers has Shelob in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Are we
it
talking
has
about the
more.
books? Or are we talking
Yeah, they
about
ed- they the
I
way
mean,
that,
okay, you could
I
argue.
haven't
Return
read
of the
the
King
books.
has the best battles. Like,
The way
Minas Tirith, bro.
the way they adapted the books to the movies is that they brought a lot of the events from the Two Towers book into the Return of the King movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of people. I've heard complaints about how the Return of the King ending is just endless in the movie. It is actually even
It's
longer in the book.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things
I
that
didn't-
they tie in
people would-
in the book for Return of the King. So that's why they brought in stuff from Two Towers that's why they brought things from the Two Towers book into the Return of the King movie.
Like I don't understand why people were hating on the ending of Return of the King.
Dude,
Like,
it's
it
so
was
There's
good.
like
it was-
6 of
it
them.
was
That's
so-
why.
Bruh.
was
But to me,
so
it's
long.
perfect.
Yeah, I
Dude,
thought
yeah,
it was
I'm
perfect.
like, can you
For-
give me 6 more? I want more.
Yeah, I'm down.
I want to
I'm
see
down.
where they're going on the boat.
Yeah, ending a movie or ending a series like that, it deserves like
Yeah.
a pretty big.
Yeah, I
ending.
mean,
I would have
there's
taken
so
the
many
Scourge of the
characters,
Shire.
dude.
Like at the end of the Return of the King novel, we go back to Hobbiton, go back to the Shire, and it's been taken over by Saruman, who isn't dead. He dies in
Oh.
the extended version of the Return of the
Yeah.
King, but in the books he's not dead yet. And they go back, and Merry and Pippin are like way bigger than all the other hobbits because they drank the Ent juice. I don't know what it's called. I can't remember.
The water.
But they go back, and there's this whole sequence, and there's battles that happen there, and it's like a whole nother, like, I don't know how many I don't remember how many chapters it was, but it's a whole nother section of the book, and it's my favorite chapter in the book. But I would have taken that. I would have taken another 3-hour movie.
I need to read the books.
But Lord of the Rings, it's
High fantasy.
it's so well
so
done.
good.
It's so
Yeah.
well done. Like
and with like
so
so many
good.
characters as well,
Yes.
it does so well to set
that has
everything up.
cap-
The
first
amount
two
of work
records.
Yeah.
that went into that is
Yeah.
crazy.
And
Like,
great
all the-
music, both score and songs.
The
Oh my gosh,
practical
so
effects
good.
are timeless. They're so good, dude. And just looking at like Lord of the Rings compared to The Hobbit, like the effects in The Hobbit are so upsetting.
The Hobbit is such a sad story.
Dude,
how
it's
that
so
how that
bad,
turned out the way it
bro.
did.
It's
You wanna
enjoyable.
know why?
Everyone
You
hates
wanna
on
know why
the
that
Hobbit, but
happened?
The
it's-
book is so good.
Yeah, well, the
and then
book,
they
the
just
book.
butchered it. I was like,
Ugh.
oh.
Originally, The Hobbit was supposed to be 2 films. If you watch at the end of the first film, the Unexpected Journey one, you get this sequence where the big orc is walking down. I can't remember his name. Why can't I remember his name?
The king.
Azog. Azog is walking down this. It's the out of the frying pan into the fire sequence from the books.
It's out of the
But-
frying pan into the fray. Is it?
Yes,
Fire, yeah.
I could've
That's,
sworn it was
that
fire.
is the saying. Yes.
Not.
There's a sequence
check.
in the movie which is like the climactic sequence where Azog is walking down this big log, and the theme plays, but it's not any song from The Hobbit. It is the Nazgul's theme. Azog is not one of the Nazgul. He's not one of the 9. He's not one of the 9 riders. And when I heard it the first time, I was like, why is this playing? I was like, that doesn't, like, I know they're adding stuff from the Silmarillion and some of his letters, but like, why is the Nazgul's theme playing? And the reason is because when they were making the movies, Peter Jackson was first off very burnt out, didn't want to be making these movies. He had a lot of passion for them, but what was happening with I think it was New Line who was the main culprit, or maybe it was Warner Brothers. But they were very much trying to get what they got with the original Lord of the Rings in terms of success, which they would have if they would have just let Peter Jackson do his thing. But it was originally supposed to be 2 movies, and they said we want a 3rd one, and so they had to cut the movie out of the frying pan into the fire, and they had to find a theme to put in that scene. And so they just chose the Nazgul theme because it was iconic, and they threw it in there. And then you see the second film, Desolation of Smaug, which I will agree with Mars. They're entertaining to an extent, but then you get these sort of ridiculous moments, or these moments that are
The love kind of
It's so-
love
it's so-
relationship.
yeah,
like
like
those
these
are
these
from
these
the-
Yeah.
these B and C plots that don't need to be in these films, and these
out of
sequences that
pocket.
are just completely useless, and these cartoonishness, which I'm okay with the cartoonishness, honestly, but the way that they do it, and the CG, and the fact that they had Weta Workshops at their disposal and used them for like comps for their CG instead of actually just using them. And they took away so much of the magic you get from the original series.
Yeah.
And-
There's 3 aspects to those movies that I think were almost perfect. I think that Bilbo was perfectly casted, and I think he did a phenomenal.
Both versions of Bilbo.
Yes, yeah. What's his
Martin Freeman,
Freeman.
Martin
and,
Freeman
and
yes.
Ian Holm from the
Yeah, yeah.
original.
Martin Freeman, I think, was perfect. Like, I think he, like, reading the books as a kid and everything, that's how I pictured Bilbo. Like, exactly. I think the spiders were perfect. Like, that whole sequence where they're in Mirkwood and the spiders are there, perfect. I think that was sick. And then I also think that Smaug was done perfect as well. Smaug was
Have
awesome.
you ever seen the videos of
Oh boy.
what's his name? Benedict Cumberbatch
Oh,
doing
yeah.
Smaug in the mocap suit, and he's like on the ground. He's like, I am fire, and you're just like, can't take it seriously after that.
It's so good. It's so good. They put how much they spent like 150 million or something crazy on that CG. It's like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
And the CG still sucked.
Better than anything
Smaug
Marvel's
was
doing.
good.
Smaug was
super
good.
Yeah.
Everything else is trash.
Better than anything Marvel's doing.
Hazog, I don't know about that.
Azog is way more interesting than like any villain from the past.
Yeah, I mean, sure,
phases of
story wise,
Marvels.
maybe, but like CG wise,
Yeah, but he has cool fights.
but it doesn't matter because CG looks like garbage, and the ring race fight scene looks like an actual video game,
Oh, the one with
which I
Gandalf,
hated.
the
yeah.
necromancer one.
Well, Gandalf or Galadriel and Saruman.
Yeah, that one
I hated
is
that. I hated that so much.
that one is weird.
I tolerate the Hobbit movies. Like, the book is better. Like, I love the Hobbit book. I can watch the Hobbit movies because it's still Middle Earth, so I
Yeah.
still don't hate myself watching them. But Lord of the Rings is not down to that level. It's
If you want
I-
to talk
I would
about a
be
real
Hobbit
destruction of
Hobbit
like
has
the Lord
flaws,
of the Rings.
but I
The Rings of Power.
Yeah, the Rings of Power
Yeah.
is just
So
that's atrocious.
terrible.
It's
It's
atrocious.
so bad.
I would be so
every
okay
level.
with Peter
like-
Jackson redoing The Hobbit in the way he did The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I would.
I don't think he'll do it though.
I don't either.
It would- dude, it would
He's
be
done
so
with
long.
that series. He was like there's a lot of documentation.
He owes us.
Of the
literally.
Hobbit. Like there was so much. They do a lot of behind the scenes for those films because that was so successful with the original trilogy. And you can watch the Hobbit behind the scenes, and the dude was like burnt out. You can see
Yeah.
he's like losing hair. He like can't handle like, not that he couldn't handle the pressure, but like that it was just they had put him through a gauntlet with the original 3 Lord of the Rings, and now he had to do it again.
Yeah.
And it was just not going to happen. The Hobbit is, first off, it's too short of a book to really.
Two
Have
movies.
to.
Two
Like the-
movies. You could
Two
do it.
movies if
Would
you're
be
adding a
perfect.
lot.
Well,
No,
if you're
I don't
just
even
going
think
in
so.
on the
Two
fight,
movies, you
fight.
could do it with
Yeah.
everything in there.
Yeah.
Not adding anything.
You could probably make it like a one long one.
Yeah, I would much rather have.
Like 4 hours,
I would much rather have a 3.5 hour
probably
Hobbit
3.5 hours.
film than two just taking stuff out of the book. But I think you can add stuff. You can add the stuff that Tolkien has material that was taking place. Like when Gandalf disappears, he's going to do something that's in Tolkien's writing. It's just you can put that in it, and they did, but they wanted so much other stuff that it just doesn't work.
in that movie, man.
Dude, these
Somebody needed to tell him that he had bird poop on his face. I don't know why no one told him.
are Rustable
I don't even mind Radagast the Brown. I think it's a,
you should mind Radagast.
Why, dude?
Annoying.
Wait, who do we? We just saw someone that we related to.
I mean,
Oh, yikes.
I forget who it was.
It was some random person. Not a. I feel like they're pretty close to us, but we just we're like that guy looks like Radagast.
All right.
I can't remember.
Rapid fire. Only the title. Honorable mention. One.
One honorable mention?
One honorable mention.
Okay, fine. Sound of Metal.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Since you mentioned Lord of the Rings, I will steer away from that. I'm gonna go with Drive. Ryan Gosling.
Great choice.
Pretty fire. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
That's a good
I
one.
wanted to put that on my
Yes,
list.
dude.
That's a
I
good
was
one.
gonna put it on there. I was gonna put it
I
on.
chose Singing in the Rain over it.
I'll go. I'll go.
it's
I'll
such a
go.
good
I'll
movie.
go. I'll go.
Gosh darn it. There's so many.
This is your question.
I know. I had it, and then I was like, maybe not.
Beyblade, let it rip.
Beyblade, let it rip. Let's fight.
The
OG
four-
Iron Man.
the four-
The
that's a
OG
good one.
Iron
That's
Man.
a good one.
That's a good
I
one.
like that I was trying to make this whole thing go without any movies.
But the OG Iron Man is like, we've been
It
talking
is,
about
it is.
effects and whatnot.
It's-
That movie
it's
hits
argu-
all the
Yeah,
marks.
arguably one of the best.
If you had to
Or
watch a
arguably
superhero
the
film, it should
best
be that
Marvel
one.
movie.
Iron
Yeah.
Man is a great movie without worrying about building the Marvel brand at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good Will Hunting. It's also I was expecting
Yeah, that's
somebody to say
two.
it. That's why I didn't choose it.
Too.
All right.
Also,
done.
Has that been recording?
the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Requiem for a Dream and
The Room.
The Room
I'm
is
kidding.
amazing.
Don't ever watch that. It's horrible.
Also, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and
Maybe
Revenge of
before
the
they
Sith.
ruined the franchise.
Okay, well, if we're talking about ruining
Rogue One is
franchises,
good. I will
It's not
admit.
bad.
I
Rogue
like
One
Ro-
is
Rogue-
okay.
Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars film.
But anything
What?
that
By
came out
far.
after Revenge of
What?
the Sith, as far as
Yes.
films, shouldn't exist.
What?
Anyway,
That's a hot
where
take.
Can we find this podcast for the viewers?
Yeah. Check. We're on Spotify. If you're listening to this, it's probably on Spotify and YouTube. But at the time that this podcast gets released, will also be on YouTube.
When does my first one come out?
That's a great question. I will let you know when it gets posted, and that's when it'll be out.
Okay. So the moment this is done, it's gonna be on Spotify, right?
Not the moment. The moment people are listening to it, yeah. But this will be from the time we're recording, probably like a month and a half,
Oh.
just because I have a ton of episodes to post. Yeah. Thanks for listening. If you liked it, hit the follow and subscribe to it or something like that. I don't know. Do what you want. Peace.